You are listening to the DaliTalks podcast where my mom, Dali, empowers parents like you with parenting tips. My mom's mission is to help parents make their child raising experience easier and more enjoyable by sharing valuable lessons to save them unnecessary struggles. The DaliTalks podcast is for any person already parenting or planning on parenting a child. Each week you'll hear different experts talk with my mom about important aspects of parenting, self-care, and of course her specialized area of bullying awareness and prevention. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, go ahead and do so now wherever you may be listening. And don't forget to set up your alerts so that you don't miss any episodes. Let's get started.
Hey, welcome back to the Dali Talks podcast. Today I'm going to talk to you about the most asked questions about bullying that I get. I find it really interesting because to me, it is like common sense to ask some of these questions, but I realize that a lot of people don't ask these questions because nothing has prompted them to do so. And this almost always happens until something does happen to their child and they find themselves kind of like trying to gather all the information that they need in order to advocate for their kids as best as possible. So I always preach prevention because nobody likes to run around when something has happened and you're not really clearly thinking. You might forget some things. You might also interpret things very differently than when you're in a very calm state. So here are some of the questions, and I have been posting one of these questions or the answer to one of these questions every week on Instagram. So make sure that you follow me. The handle is at DaliTalks. And I'm also kind of repurposing this information and posting it on the blog at the dalitalks.com/blog. So if you don't prefer to listen to podcasts, you can go ahead and read on the blog or go to Instagram. So here are some of the questions. Man, I've been doing this since 2000, officially since 2000, I think 19. And I've been educating parents on bullying awareness and prevention for over 10 years, really, because I started before I actually formed the company. And so through my in-person and online workshops, certain questions just keep coming up again and again. And the same questions appear in social media and in comments and DMs. And it's not surprising when you consider that 1 in 3 kids in the US experience bullying. I think a lot of people don't realize that that's how bad it is. And tragically, bullying is often linked to cases of suicide. They're also linked to cases of suicide ideation, and violent acts, whether it's at school or somewhere else. So this is really unacceptable, and it can be stopped. It can be prevented. So that's why I reach out to as many parents as possible, because no child should ever reach the point to where they're deciding, should I take my life or not? So here's some of the questions. Number one, and these are not in order of like how much they get asked. These are just like I think it's 13 that I came up with because I was going over my notes. I was reviewing my DMs and comments and things like that. So the first one that I'll talk about is, how can I tell if my child is being bullied? There are many different signs that you can look for, and they're different depending on, of course, like what type of bullying is going on. But overall, you know your child, right? So the moment that you see that your child's behavior is different, I think is when you need to start asking questions. I'm not going to go into detail for every single one of these because it is quite a bit of questions, so it would take a lot of time. And I want to make sure that this segment is short enough for you to digest. So the other one is, what are the signs of bullying that I should look for? Oh, there are many. And all of these questions, by the way, the answers are in my book, Confident Bully Proof Kids, and they're also in the book, Your Guide to Bullying Prevention. Um, what should I do if my child is being bullied? That's another big one. And I really love that one because that tells me they're really, really concerned for their child, and they really want to make sure that they do whatever it is that they have to do to make sure that the child does not end up with the negative mental health impacts that bullying tends to do to people. And by the way, it impacts not just the person who got bullied, but it actually negatively impacts the witnesses, the bully, anybody that is involved in a bullying incident. So uh, everybody has a potential, a risk of ending up with like things like PTSD or depression, anxiety, things like that. The other question is, how can I teach my child to stand up to bullies? Oh, I love this one because there are so many ways that you can do that. But the number one way that I think kids will actually take action is if you role model it, or if you play do role playing. I know that the older the child is, the less likelihood they'll do it. But you're a parent, and if you role model it for them, that's going to be big enough, and probably I'm not going to say it's going to guarantee that they're going to emulate your behaviors, but there's a higher chance that they will. For the little ones, writing scripts and playing them out is perfect. It's also a form of doing it in a playful way where you can also bond with your child. So I have examples in both books about this. The other question is, what steps can I take to ensure my child's school takes bullying seriously? Another great question, because there are so many parents that don't really know how much power they have with their school. The parents will always be heard more, and their suggestions will be taken more seriously before they do the suggestions of teachers, which is crazy because teachers see everything. They know a lot more about the school culture. But yet, when they ask for certain tools or resources, they are denied. But when a parent comes forward, schools feel more obligated because that's who they're pretty much serving, right? The families. Um, Schools have discretionary funds. They have funds specifically for anti-bullying programs. So there are so many questions that you can ask to make sure that your child's school is taking bullying seriously. You can even go to that school and ask if to see the report of like how many bullying incidents they've had that the school year. Um, a lot of people, a lot of admins will not share that information with you, but it is public information and you have a right to it. It all depends on how you ask. The other question is, how can I help my child build confidence and resilience? Oof, love that one too. Pretty much, oh man, challenging your child in every way possible. I think that that is what builds character. Whether it is challenging them at home to do something that they believe they don't have the ability to do, or putting them in a sport or in some sort of class extracurricular activity, and also positive talk about your children. The way that you describe your children around them or not is what they're going to internalize. So be mindful of those words. Instead of saying, "Oh, my kid is a screw up," no, just say, "My kid is a fighter. My kid never quits. They keep trying and trying, trying." So spin it around, make it possible. Never talk negatively about your children, especially in front of them. Um, the other one is, what should I do if my child is the one bullying others? Oof. Um, so there are many, many things. I have so many, like I think I've written several. No, I definitely have some Instagram posts on this. I don't think I have a blog I have anything on the blog about it. I'm gonna check because there's a lot on there. But this answer is definitely in both books. The book that I recommend you read if you have older kids, I think is Confident Bully for Kids. I think that one's better because the other one is it's a lot more colorful, brighter, like the activities are more like younger child style. Although it's really good, but I have uh I have that answer in there because I think a lot of parents have those parent blinders and they don't want to admit that their children might be hurting others. And so when a parent comes and tells me, "Hey, I think my child is being a bully, how can I tell?" All of the signs are there. I write them down. And the one thing I tell parents is, you know what, if you do realize your child is a bully, uh approach the situation from a place of love, not a place of shaming and fear mongering or any of that, because kids won't listen. And you want to overall get to the root of the problem. What is causing this child to go and harm somebody, and what about the harm, or the act is it that they like about it, and how does it make them feel? At the end of the day, you want to make sure that your child is empathetic and that they understand that their actions are going to have some consequences, not just on the people that they are hurting, but on them as well. So the other one is, how can I talk to my child about bullying without making them feel embarrassed or scared? Ah, man, this is, to me, it seems so easy to talk about it when you use the media, because kids are always watching something or listening to something. A perfect example that you can like talk about right now is a beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar. Just like, people are putting posts out there about uh, like the breakdown of the song and what it means and stuff. And you can use that to discuss how Drake has been bullied for appropriating Blackness or for pretending to be somebody that he's not. You can take so many examples of that, like how it's gone down on online, which is cyberbullying, and also just reading the comments, and some of the comments that people post on there. People see them as, oh, these are just passionate conversations, but a lot of them are cyberbullying. They're just terrible things being said, right? And you can take almost anything in the media and talk about it. Trump, even, politicians, um, actors, singers, uh, TV shows, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the new one or the old one. There's so many examples of that there. So it doesn't have to be a boring sit down where you're like, okay, we're going to talk about bullying today, and you don't have to, um, yeah, it doesn't have to be that way. And I think like when you do it in a more conversational, playful manner, the embarrassment is not there, and the scariness of it is not there. So it's just a conversation, The other question is, what are the long-term effects of bullying in children? Whew. Okay, so I've read so much about this, but overall, the risk, and this is what I mentioned earlier, the risk of negative mental health impacts is much higher in kids who experience bullying, and also the bully and the witnesses. But what was shocking to me was that there was this one study by a psychologist that was done on kids who were in the juvenile, what is it, detention system. And what they saw was that any child who was bullied before the age of 14 had a higher risk of violence and mental health impacts, like, depression, anxiety, PTSD, things like that. So they were more likely to engage in uh, violent acts. And then they took a study, the same study, and then they looked at the kids who had been bullied before and after the age of 14. And the risks uh, tripled, and kids were more likely to end up in the prison system. And there was I want to say it was before the age of 21, they had been arrested at least three times, kids who were um, bullied. Listen to what I'm saying. The kids who were bullied, not the bully. I mean, although they too have a higher chance of getting into trouble like that. But what happens is the victim gets tired of being pushed around by the bully, that then they become an aggressor, and sometimes worse than the bully, because they're pretty much trying to survive. So it's really important that you tackle this as early as possible, because who wants their kid to be engaged in anything with the law, right? Or any act of violence. It's just not, that's not what any parent wants. So there are definitely long-term effects of bullying on children. And I think that that alone should be the motivating factor in schools and within your own household, to talk to your kids about it, to make sure that they're okay, make sure that they're not harming others or themselves. Um, and at in a bigger picture, think of it this way: these kids who bully and comes of it, right? Like nobody makes them feel the consequences. They grow up and go into the workforce, and they bully people at work. And then sometimes these people end up in leadership positions, like high leadership positions. And I think we've all seen that at many levels, including the biggest level of them all. And they make a lot of people miserable, and they benefit off of these people. And it makes you so angry to see that, right? Because you're like, that's not fair. But the thing is, nobody is stopping it. Nobody's stopping the person. They're always scared to stop the person. And so if you start at the very, very bottom level, so let's say like elementary school level, you can make a world of difference in who or what type of people we put in the workforce and in leadership positions in our governments. So there's that. Let's see, what's the other question? How can I encourage my child to report bullying to teachers or school authorities? I think that this is hard, because what happens is teachers and school authorities are not well trained on how to manage these situations. One of the most stressful things, and one of the things that worries people more about reporting, is, will things get worse? So I think, I don't know that you can encourage kids to report it without them being worried. All I know is that if you remind them that reporting is not only going to help them but others, then kids might lean more towards doing it, especially when they feel the support from friends and from family members. As a matter of fact, just recently, a parent called because their teen had been um, cyber bullied, and somebody was trying to exploit them because they sent a picture, an inappropriate picture. And as soon as they sent it, the person revealed themselves that, okay, so here's how it went down. 16-year-old is talking to a girl online. He thought this girl was real. He had checked her out online, saw that she was like mutual friends with other people. Um, she ended up asking him for a picture, a nude. He sent a partial one, and as soon as he did, this person asked for $100 and then asked for um, a smaller amount of money when he kept saying no, and he freaked out because then he was threatening to expose him and to send the picture everywhere and tell everybody and stuff like that, which is common, right? This is happening so much. Um, and so the parent called and they were like, oh, what do I do? One of the things that I recommended was report it to the police, because every police task force handles cyberbullying situations very differently. And in this case, because it's sexual in nature, they will most likely take it more seriously. Not always, sadly, but they decided to not report the father and the kid because they just felt like it was not necessary. And that breaks my heart, because if it's happening to this kid, it's happening to many, many other kids. And it's all because they're embarrassed, right? They're embarrassed and they're scared that, that the word is going to get out, everybody's going to find out. And so I said, you know what? If they do find out, if everybody finds out, everybody, like their community, their friends and stuff, then get ahead of it and say, hey, this happened to me and I don't want it to happen to you. So this is why I'm sharing. Um, so I think it's when kids see that the matters are handled favorably, or delicately, and in a way that makes sense, I think that's what gives kids the confidence to report it, because it's not just going to be some some gossip story, and then that's gonna get nowhere, and people are just gonna find out about it, and they're gonna be like, so and so, this is what happened to them. So I think that is how you can encourage a child to report bullying to teachers and school authorities, is by finding out how do they manage these behaviors, these reports, these incidents, and explaining to the kid, like, hey, this is how they said it's gonna be handled. They feel a little sense of like peace knowing. Um, and and of course, if you find out that it's probably gonna get nowhere, then I mean, if you decide to not report it at all, then okay. But I know that reporting is, or the lack of reporting is the reason why so many bad people are walking around in this world. Nobody wants to quote unquote snitch. I think that society has a really incorrect view of how you advocate for yourself by speaking up. Snitching and reporting are completely different things. And I think it has to be defined, and you have to give clear examples. Snitching is when you want to hurt somebody just because you're trying to be vindictive. Reporting is when you're trying to keep yourself and others safe, to include the perpetrator. And that's a big difference, right? So anyway, yeah, I have a whole discussion about that. The other question is, are there any programs or resources available to help bullied children? Yes, there are. Schools have some programs, not all, of course. Um, Also mental health professionals, and sometimes some martial arts uh, places have a focus on bullying prevention. And this is something I've been seeing more and more, not a lot yet, but they're using martial arts marketing with the element of self-defense against bullying, which is great. And what I find is that these places, they'll get high enrollment, but they're not actually talking about the bullying itself. So make sure that you do go to a place where, yeah, they're being taught to defend themselves, because they should be able to, but also um, they're being educated on what bullying is, what it looks like, and what they could do before it gets physical. So keep that in mind. Aside from those resources, I think articles, like stories that you read online about how a case might have gone, that's actually a resource. You can have conversations about it. Um, Let me see what else, and then, I mean, most of the resources to read up on, I think, is more for the parents, like stats and stuff like that, which is helpful. But really, resources for the kids is really you being engaged with them, putting them in some type of program that focuses on self-growth, self-development, and confidence building. That is huge. I think confidence is the number one weapon against any type of negative behaviors towards anyone, So, because people don't want to mess with people who are confident. No bully wants to mess with a confident person because they know they're not going to take that crap. Um, but definitely mental health professionals, they have a lot of training, but make sure that you ask if you do take your child to one. And the other one is life coaches for teens. This is something that I'm seeing more and more. My friend Nella is one of them. She's amazing. Uh, and then there are so many other life coaches out there for kids. I think it's a great investment. I know that insurance doesn't pay for it, but if you are able to invest in it for your child, do it. And don't wait until they are until they're bullied or anything like that. You can do it now. Um, let's see, what's the other question? Um, How can I work with my child's school to prevent bullying? Oh my gosh, this is a good one. Uh, just being involved, reviewing their program, giving feedback, reviewing the method that they use, the reporting method, giving feedback, um, also volunteering, like if they need somebody to give a short class on uh, a part of the program, say um, detecting the different types of cyberbullying. You can take the program, the lesson plan, which they should have one, and then you can go over it and teach it in your own way. I mean, there's so many things that you can do. You can also implement a certain program or some type of system that can make it easier for people to learn about bullying, or um, to implement some type of safety program. There's a lot you can do. Um, Attending the PTA meetings, attending the school board meetings, and chiming in. That's very, very helpful. Even suggesting anti-bullying programs or bullying prevention programs that you've seen that are effective in other places, that can help. So, also just having your presence at school. When kids see parents being involved, they behave better. So that's how you can work with your child's school to prevent bullying. What role does social media play in bullying, and how can I protect my child? Oh my gosh. The role that social media plays in bullying is huge. Everything's every all types of behavior is normalized on there. So the way that you can protect your child online is by constantly talking about what you're seeing online. Um, and how to prevent it, teaching them to be good digital citizens, keeping staying faithful to the golden rule. If it's not something positive, it's not something good, don't post it, don't say it. Also monitoring tools, and just safety features, so that your child doesn't have access to inappropriate content, and so that the wrong people are not able to easily access your child. There are a lot of attacks out there against kids. It is incredible. Um, so you have to be very, very careful. The other question is, let's see, how can I foster a positive and inclusive environment at home to prevent bullying behaviors? Oh my gosh. Okay, so remember, everything starts in the home, from how you speak to your child, because some parents, they confuse discipline for bullying your child. You got to be very careful. Remember that assertiveness doesn't mean aggression or violence either. You may have that clear. So always allowing your child to speak their mind in a very respectful way is powerful. It's very positive, very inclusive. Always asking them, well, how do you want to solve this problem? I'll help. Or you lead the way, I'll be right there to support you. So that's how you can foster that really healthy environment, where they're going to feel like they can come to mom and dad and talk to them about anything. And if they ask for help, that you're going to provide the support or the help. Um, and then lastly, what legal actions can I take if the school doesn't address the bullying? I have an entire course about this on reporting bullying and the different options that you have, but litigation is definitely scary and expensive. But there are attorneys that will charge you at the end of the case, like they get paid if you win, and they get a certain portion of the legal fees. Not all, because every case is different, but they are definitely legal actions that you can take if the school doesn't address. And remember, everything that you do with the school, the moment you write in your official complaint, that is a legal action. I think a lot of parents don't realize that. And then there are different echelons where it'll go to, right? You have the school, your child's school, and then from there it goes up to district. If you don't go to the district, I mean, if the district doesn't do their job and provides you with a real solution, then you can go to the school board. And then from the school board, there's also another person in the Department of Education of your state that is assigned to oversee all of these type of violent behaviors and cases reported at the school. And you can also talk to that person. I don't know if anybody who's ever had to do that, but I know that that person is available in every state. And then, of course, there's also mediation, which usually comes out of your own pocket, and attorneys. And usually it's an education attorney or a personal injury attorney that focuses on, cases like bullying. So those are some of the legal actions that you can take if the school doesn't take the issue seriously enough. So these questions, they reflect, parents' concerns about identifying, addressing, and preventing bullying, as well as ensuring that their kids' overall well-being and safety is intact, right? So I just wanted to give you a rundown of all those questions, and so that you can think about it, and let me know if you would like more information about one of these. Um, I might come up with a live workshop, and we can discuss that. Um, so just keep asking the questions and know that when you empower yourself with information and your children know that you're empowered with it, they feel a lot more confident and they'll be more likely to quickly come to you if something happens and ask for help. So I hope that you took something away from this episode. There's definitely a lot more questions that have been asked, but these were just some of the few that I wanted to touch on. And share this video with another parent. And don't forget, if you have extra time, leave a review. That'll be very helpful for my podcast. Thank you.
Hey, did you like that episode? If you did, be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you may be listening and write a review. If you want more tips or some behind-the-scenes videos, make sure to follow my mom at DaliTalks on Instagram. You can turn on notifications for her posts and stories as well. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. See you next time.